My neighbor demanded I cut down my century-old tree because it blocked her sunlight. When I refused, she hired workers to chop it down while I was at work and threw a party under its stump. She smirked and said, "Your property, my view." I called the police and said, "Hope you enjoy explaining this to the judge. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. Born here, raised here. I still live in the same house I grew up in. It's a modest place, old wood siding, original flooring, and a backyard that has one thing I never thought I'd have to defend, my tree. A white oak tree that was planted by my great-grandfather in 1904. This tree was massive. At least 80 feet tall. Its branches were wide, thick, and curved perfectly. It shaded the whole backyard and part of my roof. Summers were cooler because of it. The air smelled better. Squirrels ran up and down its trunk like they owned the place. And then my neighbor moved in. Monica showed up about a year and a half ago. She bought the house next door, a small 2-story with a decent yard. It had belonged to an elderly couple before her, who kept to themselves and never complained about anything. Monica was the exact opposite. From the minute she moved in, she had something to say about everything. First it was the gravel in my driveway. Then it was the weeds in my flower bed. Then she complained that I had too many wind chimes. I ignored her. Politely at first. I'm not the confrontational type, and I figured she'd settle down after she got used to the neighborhood. That didn't happen. One afternoon, Monica knocked on my door. She had on oversized sunglasses, one of those straw hats with the wide brim, and a fake smile. She got right to it. "Hi. I was wondering if you'd consider trimming or taking down your oak tree. It blocks the sunlight from hitting my backyard in the afternoon, and I'm trying to set up a sunbathing space." I stood there, kind of stunned. I said, "You mean the tree that's on my property?" "That's been there for over 100 years. She said. "Well, yeah, but it really affects my yard. It's too shady. I have plans for an outdoor setup and this tree is just killing the vibe." I shook my head and told her straight. "That tree isn't going anywhere. It's not hurting anyone. It's healthy. I'm not cutting it down." Her smile dropped, just for a second, and she said, "Well, it's something to think about." That was it. She left. I figured she'd move on. She didn't. 2 weeks later, I got a certified letter in the mail. It was from some law firm out of town. It said the tree was a nuisance, that it reduced her property value, and that if I didn't remove it, she'd pursue legal avenues. I forwarded it to my lawyer, a guy I've known since high school. He laughed and said there was no legal leg to stand on. The tree was 100% on my land. Not close to the line. Not hanging dangerously over. It wasn't rotting. It wasn't a hazard. Just a big, old, beautiful tree doing what trees do. We drafted a reply basically saying, "No. And don't threaten us again." Thought that would be the end of it. Nope. Fast forward about 6 weeks. I come home from work, normal Tuesday. I pull into the driveway, look up, and something feels off. I don't hear the rustling. I don't see the branches over the roof. I park, walk to the back, and I just stand there. The tree was gone. Not trimmed. Not pruned. Gone. Cut down to a stump about 3 feet wide. Fresh sawdust everywhere. A few broken twigs scattered. My stomach dropped. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. And then I heard music. I walked to the fence and peeked over into Monica's yard. She had people over. There was a folding table set up with snacks and drinks. A portable fire pit in the center. Lawn chairs all around. Everyone sipping wine and laughing like it was some backyard concert. Monica saw me standing there. She raised her glass and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Your property, my view." She laughed. Her guests laughed. I didn't. I walked back to my house without a word. Sat down at the kitchen table. Hands shaking. Then I remembered something. About a year before, I had installed a discreet security camera on the back corner of my roof. It wasn't visible from the ground. It's pointed at the backyard, mostly because I had a break-in scare once and figured better safe than sorry. I pulled up the footage. And I saw everything. Around 11:52 a.m., a truck pulled into her driveway. 3 guys in yellow safety vests got out with chainsaws. They walked through the gap in the fence, onto my land. No note. No knock. Nothing. Just started hacking away. By 1:30 p.m., the tree was gone. Monica came out with ice drinks for the crew. She handed them cash. She actually posed for a photo in front of the stump. All of this, on video. I downloaded every second, burned it onto 2 flash drives, emailed a copy to myself, and sent another to my lawyer. And then I called the cops. 2 officers showed up. I showed them the footage. One of them looked at me and said, "This is criminal. Not civil. She had no right to enter your property, let alone remove a tree." They went next door. I watched from my porch as Monica tried to play dumb. Denied knowing the men. Claimed she thought it was a dead tree. Then, when they mentioned video evidence, her face dropped. She got quiet. Said she'd have to speak to her lawyer. They took my statement. I signed a report. They said charges could include trespassing, vandalism, and destruction of property. The next step would be for the DA to review. That night, I sat out on the porch, staring at that empty spot in the yard where the tree used to be. The backyard didn't even look the same anymore. It was just wrong. I wasn't done. Not even close. After the police left, Monica went quiet. 4 days. No parties. No music. No wine nights. Her house looked dark every evening, blinds pulled down, like she was hiding. I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. I wanted to know exactly who those men were. What company they came from. I still didn't know if they were licensed tree removers or just some guys with chainsaws and no clue. My lawyer was already preparing paperwork, but I wanted to make sure nothing slipped through the cracks. So I went digging. I made some calls, starting with the local tree services. After a few, "Nope, wasn't us," responses, I got one that said, "Oh yeah? We know Monica. She called us for an estimate a few weeks ago. We told her we couldn't cut that tree because it was on her neighbor's land, and that it looked like a protected oak. She didn't like that. Turns out, after getting shut down by every licensed company in the area, she went on Craigslist and found a team who would do it cheap. No paperwork. No permit. No business license. Just cash under the table and chainsaws in the trunk. This made things way worse for her, legally. Now, she was tied to unlicensed labor, trespassing, illegal removal of a heritage tree, and possibly endangering workers. If one of them had gotten hurt, I could have been liable, on my own property. I gave all that info to the cops and my lawyer. And then things started to shift. Out of nowhere, 2 weeks after the tree incident, I get a notice taped to my front door. It was from a lawyer. A new one. Apparently, Monica had retained someone and was now trying to claim defamation and harassment. Let me break down how crazy this was. She was accusing me of publicly smearing her name, threatening her at her home, and creating a hostile living environment. I laughed when I read it. My lawyer didn't. "This isn't a threat," he said. "This is a distraction. A legal smokescreen. She's panicking." He told me to not speak to her, not even to wave if I saw her outside. Let everything go through court. So I did. I avoided her like the plague. But the neighborhood? Oh, they were watching everything. People started talking. I wasn't trying to get sympathy, but when you cut down a 100-year-old oak tree in a quiet neighborhood like ours, people notice. Especially when it belongs to someone else. A neighbor down the street, let's call him Ron, came by with a beer and said, "Heard what happened? Total BS. She's lucky I wasn't home that day, I would have called the cops myself." Others dropped off plants. Some even shared stories of how that tree had been part of the block for years, shade for their kids, birdwatching in the spring, even a tree swing from back in the 90s. That oak wasn't just mine. It was part of the street. But of course, a few people sided with Monica. Mostly the newer residents who had moved in after the housing boom. They liked the clean, sun-drenched look. I saw one guy whispering to her in the driveway one morning. A week later, he posted on Nextdoor about property owners being flexible to community needs. Give me a break. About a month later, I came home to find my tires slashed. All 4. Clean cuts. Nothing else touched. I reported it to the cops. They said there wasn't much they could do without footage. Guess what? That camera in the backyard? It only pointed toward the stump. My front driveway? No camera. Coincidence? I didn't think so. My lawyer added it to the report. He was now pushing for a restraining order on top of the lawsuit. And here's the part that almost made me snap. Monica filed a formal complaint to the HOA, which barely exists in our area, saying that I was running a home business without a permit, that I had excessive traffic at the house, and that I had junk materials on my property. I'm an HVAC tech, so yeah, sometimes I keep equipment in the garage or have my work truck parked out front. But it's never a mess, and I follow all city rules. Still, I had to show up to a ridiculous hearing where Monica claimed I was operating a commercial warehouse out of a residential zone. Luckily, I brought photos, documents, and permits. The HOA shut her down. But it was clear what she was doing now. She wasn't just trying to beat me in court. She was trying to wear me down. While all this was happening, my lawyer and I were working behind the scenes. The city arborist came out to confirm the oak was registered. It was a heritage tree, protected by local ordinances. Removing it without a permit carried hefty fines, especially if done knowingly. Guess what? Monica had received a copy of that ordinance in her mailbox when she bought the house. We had proof she knew. The realtor's welcome packet had a copy. Her signature was on it. That little detail? That was the nail I needed. But I wasn't done building this case yet. The final straw, before things really escalated. Monica filed a noise complaint against me for mowing my lawn at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. 10 a.m. on a weekend. That was it. I decided it was time to go loud, in my own quiet way. I started designing something for my backyard. A tribute. A message. Something she'd see every single day from her back windows. But that part comes later. You want more? Let me know. This story's just getting warm. About 6 weeks after the tree was cut down, I got a letter in the mail, from the city. It said they had received a retroactive permit filing for the removal of a heritage tree from my address. The form had my name typed at the top, and a signature at the bottom that looked like a drunk spider had scribbled it with their foot. Someone had forged my name. I sat there staring at the paper, my jaw clenched. The audacity of it. I immediately called the city planning office. The woman on the phone said, "You submitted the form online, sir." "No," I said. "I didn't. I have never signed or submitted this." She pulled up the digital submission. There was a blurry scan of the signature and a driver's license number listed underneath, mine. Except, I checked my wallet. My license hadn't been stolen. I looked closer at the scan when they emailed it to me. The number was off by 2 digits. She faked my license info. Now I had evidence of forgery and attempted fraud, on top of everything else. My lawyer nearly choked on his coffee when I showed him. "We're not just going after her for damages anymore," he said. "We're going after her life." A week later, we finally ID'd one of the guys who cut the tree. His face was visible on the footage. My lawyer got a PI involved, and they ran a background check. Turns out, he wasn't just unlicensed, he had done time. 3 years for property damage and theft of equipment. The guy had a pattern of being hired under the table and trashing properties for fast cash. Monica had paid him $1,200 in cash, according to a witness who worked at the local hardware store and remembered her buying chainsaw oil and tarps the same morning. So now Monica was tied to hiring an ex-con with a record of property crime, paying him in cash, and sending him onto someone else's land. This wasn't small claims court material anymore. This was criminal territory. Late one Friday night, I smelled smoke. I thought it was someone's chimney at first. But then I saw the flicker. I walked out and peeked over the fence. Monica had dragged the same fire pit she used during her tree celebration over near the property line, and it was lit. Full-on flames, less than 5 feet from her fence. Dry leaves everywhere. She and a couple of guests were drinking and laughing. One of them flicked a cigarette right onto the ground. I called the fire department. Not to be a jerk, but because if that pit tipped, my house was toast. They arrived 10 minutes later. Put out the flames. Issued a warning. Told her this was her second citation. Apparently she'd already had one a few months ago, for burning yard waste without a permit. Here's the kicker. I found out Monica tried to say I started the fire. She actually told the fire captain that she saw me near the fence earlier in the evening and thought I might have tossed something flammable. Over. Again. I have cameras. Every second I was inside, on record. When the fire captain saw the video, he added her to the frequent violators list for the city. Another strike. At this point, we're about 3 months past the tree incident. Lawsuits filed. Court is pending. I'm keeping my head down. Then I get a knock on my door, from a real estate agent. He hands me his card and asks if I'd be interested in selling. I tell him no, and ask why he's even asking. He lowers his voice and says, "I've been asked to quietly shop a few houses in the neighborhood. Off market. One of them belongs to your neighbor." I blink. "She's selling?" He nods. "Not officially. She's trying to avoid listing fees. Word is, she's behind on her mortgage. Big remodel, pricey loan, legal fees catching up." It clicked. The parties. The lawyer change. The fake permit. The desperation. Monica was drowning in debt, and instead of backing off, she was swinging wildly at everyone around her. But guess what? She couldn't sell the house with an active lawsuit hanging over it. I didn't need to stop her. The courts already had. While all of this was going on, I started working in the backyard. Quietly. No drama. No posts. Just me, a contractor buddy, and some tools. We built a raised platform over the old stump. It wasn't tall, just a few steps up. I planted climbing ivy around the base. Hung string lights from posts. Added a garden bench, some flowers. A peaceful space. Then I added one thing that made Monica lose her mind. A metal sign, bolted to the railing, in clean lettering. Stolen. Cut without permission. Never forgotten. She saw it one morning and screamed at me over the fence. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. By the time we got to court, Monica looked like a cornered animal. She wasn't the smug, wine-sipping party host anymore. Her hair was tied back in a tight bun, her makeup barely covering the dark circles under her eyes. Her lawyer was a guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Meanwhile, my lawyer was prepared for war. He had a full binder of evidence, security footage, timestamps, witness statements, even the city's official record of the tree as a protected landmark. And most importantly, we had the forged permit. Monica had no idea we knew about it. When it was time for her defense, her lawyer did his best. He claimed she had a misunderstanding about the tree's ownership. That she had assumed permission was granted, since I had ignored her letter. Then my lawyer stood up. And he laid it all out. The footage of the men trespassing. The Craigslist contractors, with criminal records. The forged permit filing. The city's official documentation proving she was mailed a copy of the heritage tree laws, meaning she knowingly broke them. And then he did something brutal. He played the footage from the night of the fire pit incident. The part where Monica tried to blame me for arson. She shrunk into her chair. I saw her face go pale. Finally, the judge turned to Monica. His voice was cold. Do you have anything to say for yourself? For the first time since this started, Monica looked small. She glanced at her lawyer, but he didn't meet her eyes. She swallowed hard. Then, in the quietest voice I've ever heard from her, she whispered, I didn't think it would go this far. The courtroom was silent. That was it. No big excuse. No long-winded lie. She had nothing left. Because she knew. She knew she was going to lose. The judge didn't waste time. Monica was fully liable for damages. She was ordered to pay $200,000 in damages and legal fees. The fraud charge regarding the permit? That went to the district attorney. She was going to face criminal investigation. The city fined her an additional $15,000 for violating local ordinances. Her lawyer quietly gathered his papers. Monica sat there, stunned, like she couldn't believe this was happening to her. And then, the best part, she had 30 days to pay or liquidate assets. In other words, she had to sell her house. A week after the ruling, Monica did something I never expected. She showed up at my front porch. Not in a power suit. Not with some fake charm. She was in sweatpants, no makeup, hair unwashed. Her eyes were red and puffy. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, hands shaking. Then, finally, she muttered, I lost everything. I didn't say anything. Just stared at her. I shouldn't have done it. She whispered. I thought. She swallowed. I thought you'd just let it go. Let it go. I felt white-hot anger rise in my chest. This woman tried to ruin my life. Lied. Framed me. She burned through thousands just to get her way. And now? Now she wanted, what? Pity? I took a deep breath. Kept my voice steady. Monica, you didn't just lose everything. I stepped closer. You threw it away. Her lip trembled. For a second, I thought she might cry. Then she straightened up, swallowed hard, and nodded. She walked away without another word. That was the last time I saw her. Monica sold her house. A young couple moved in. They're great people. She vanished. Word was, she moved out of state to start over. I don't know, and I don't care. My backyard is a sanctuary. The raised platform where my tree once stood. It's covered in ivy now. The plaque remains. Stolen. Cut without permission. Never forgotten. The neighborhood still talks about it. People bring it up every time someone new moves in. Don't mess with the old oak guy. I don't mind. Am I happy? Not really. Winning in court doesn't fix the loss. The tree is still gone. My home still feels different. But I'll tell you this. Some people learn their lesson the easy way. Monica? She learned the hard way. And I have zero regrets.